Hello, everyone. Welcome to another amazing episode of Love, Life, and Energy. I have an incredible special guest. He's very special to me. His name is Raf Adams. He's my partner. So we're going to do something a bit different for this episode as a co-host. So Raf is going to be talking about the Suited Monk, his business, his company, and how that relates to leading your life with your heart instead of going by logic. So if you're somebody who's really logical, you've led your life from A, B to C, and you're just wondering where your next step is, this is going to be really powerful for you. So stick around. Welcome to Love, Life, and Energy. I'm Michelle Chung, and this podcast is your go-to sanctuary for personal growth, designed for busy, career-driven women who are ready to embrace their highest potential and not settle for an average, ordinary life. Let's grow and manifest your dream life together.
Great,
Hello,
thanks
Raf.
for having me. Wonderful to do this together.
Yeah, I know we've talked about it for so long, and we have done a couple of episodes together, but we're trying this new format, aren't we?
Exactly, because there's a lot of change also in the world, and I think different formats and different approaches are necessary because people need guidance on their life journeys. Here we are.
Hey, awesome. If anyone doesn't know you, I'm going to introduce you quickly. So
Yep.
You created the Suited Monk. You're the founder of the Suited Monk company, and you've been training companies and you've been doing one-on-one coaching, and you've had your program for 17 years.
Yep.
So in early 2010, you were in China and you were one of the first who were actually doing this in the world. And you got quite success, which is your suit. And you were doing that all for the companies in China, where it was a pretty tough market to break into. But you did it all. You published a couple of books and you came across this concept called the Suited Monk. So if you could quickly explain what that is, it's a very powerful concept and I'm sure people will understand it pretty quickly.
Yeah, definitely. I actually arrived in China in 2006, and then 2008 started with my coaching certification, and then 2010 the Suited Monk was born. So the idea is that everyone has a suit and everyone has a monk. And the suit is like your external self. It's the success and the ambition that you have in life. For me, that was working in a corporate multinational, a shipping company. And you see a lot of people today who are successful in their suit. You have a job, you pay your mortgage, you can take care of your family. But life is not always fulfilling. It's like, how come you're stable externally, but you're not really fulfilled internally? And so what I felt on my journey was like, I am successful in corporate, I'm climbing the ladder, but that fulfillment was not following. And so my internal self, or who I really was missing. And later on, I discovered actually, and I call that the inner monk. And it's something that we all have. It's like our passion, it's our values, it's what's important for us. It's like a sense of love, a sense of joy, our purpose in life. And it's only when I left the corporate world that I started listening to myself for the first time on my journey, that was back in 2008, that I realized I'm not living a life true to myself. And so that was actually the moment when my monk was actually born, that I really opened up myself to who I am, my path and my purpose. And then throughout the years that followed, I started listening more to my monk, followed my passion, followed my intuition, and that led me to a journey in China, incredible journey, later on to Spain, then to Australia. And so I fully integrated the monk with the suit so I could be happy internally, live alignment with who I am, but then have the success externally. So there is no more gap between my external and internal world. And I think for many people right now, they are searching for that inner self. There's a lot of loneliness in the world. There's a lot of depression. People are not fulfilled. And so that internal part, that monk is missing. And the challenge is, and we spoke about this earlier, is that we often use a lot of reason and logic to make decisions, but not always follow our heart and our passion because we are afraid or we lack the courage. And so that alignment of the monk and the suit brings it beautifully together. And that's the whole idea. That's the metaphor.
That's really powerful. And I think it's something that people need to be hearing right now, because what you've done is captured such a complex topic very simply, and simple is powerful. And a lot of us are searching for meaning, fulfillment, and purpose. And you're asking yourself, what do I want to do in my next job? What do I want to do in my next business? And that's almost like a very short-sighted question to be asking yourself, right? Because there's so much more that we need to be asking ourselves that really helps us to become authentic with our soul, ourselves. And in my podcast, you know that I always talk a lot about the soul purpose and meeting a soulmate from your soul purpose. So can you expand a little bit more about like the monk and how this relates to leading with the heart, leading your life and making decisions with the heart and allowing your suit or your external world, your career to follow after that.
Yeah, good point. Because when I run workshops, and well, we're in the room, sometimes there are small workshops in companies. I ask them, people, what is the most important thing in life? Actually, what are we here for? What's the most important thing? Some people say finding love. Oh, it's finding your purpose in life. Oh, it's to be happy. It's to be fulfilled and take care of your family and so on. And I always say no. I say the answer is no. And then people are a bit confused. And then one time I had a guy in the workshop say, breathing is the most important thing. Because if you don't breathe, then, then that's, you're dead. Yeah. And I said, no, even breathing is not the most important thing. I said, the most important thing in life is the quality of your decision making. I said, because a person can also decide to stop breathing, which is also a decision. And so your decisions determine the quality of your life. Finding love in life is basically depending on the decisions that you make. So for example, when people work with you on their soul path and finding their soul partner, if you go networking to an event or you don't go networking, if you start to develop your passion, you follow art classes or music or not, all these decisions have a certain outcome. And finding your soulmate, for example, depends a lot on the quality of your decision making. And we often dismiss decision making, or we don't think is that important, like life just happens to us. That's when the external comes to us and we are a bit like, yeah, it happened to me and I just need to manage it. But we never really take the ownership and the responsibility. Hey, I can take ownership and responsibility for my life. I can control my decisions. I can decide what I accept and not accept. I can decide where I set boundaries and no boundaries. So your decision making is really the key to live a life aligned with your soul. And that is a relationship that you need to develop, because most of us, we are trained to make decisions rationally. I want to change a career, how much money am I going to make with a new company, which kind of industry do I want to work in? But we never really reflect, hey, is this decision aligned with my purpose in life? Is this aligned with my path in life? Is this aligned with who I am? And so that is really the key, the quality of decision making to live more aligned. I call it, let's say, with your monk, and to find that inner journey aligned then with the external journey.
Yeah, because let's say 99% of the world use our minds, our brains and logic, or society's expectations, the formula that works for everyone else. That's how we normally make decisions, right? That's how we normally choose the way that we think we're choosing. That's the way that, we think we're choosing. And now you're saying that what's more important is actually to follow your monk, which is your internal self, which is your heart, your soul. And so how can people start to listen to themselves a little bit closer and get a clear response? What is that monk saying to us?
Yeah. When I use the word monk, I'm not referencing to Buddhism, just to clarify that, because people think you have to meditate. You don't have to meditate to listen to your monk. When I work with business leaders, for example, for a lot of them, meditation does not work, because their mind works so fast, they think so logically so fast, that they need different kinds of tools to actually connect with their monk. We can talk about the purpose of meditation later on, but to connect with your monk, the key here is never meditation. The key or the goal is always awareness. It's awareness. Awareness is the key. What does awareness do? Awareness gives you insight. And an insight is personal. Logic is universal, or reason is universal about why you should do things. But whether the why is aligned with who you are requires reflection. So the question is not just how can we connect with our monk more? The question is, how can we create more awareness in life? How can we become more reflective? To do that, there are many different kinds of tools to join that, or to do that on the journey. Very simple. Reading a new book with a topic that you're interested in. Every time you read a book, you gain new awareness. Oh, I didn't know that before. Oh, that's something interesting. And then you see what it means for you and how you can apply it. That's awareness. When you talk to a friend, you create awareness because you're bouncing off ideas. When you listen to a podcast like this one, you create awareness. And so then you need to interpret what all of that means for you. what insight am I now receiving based on the conversation that we are having? That's the message, that's the most important thing. And that's how you grow your monk. That's how you build a relationship with the internal self. Once you have the awareness, then the key comes the decision making. And that is, do you have the courage to make a decision aligned with what you feel, aligned with your values, and not based on the expectations of society and other people's expectations. And I have a lot of experience with that. It's not easy always, and you need to have courage. It's like you need to jump somehow. And that jump is always like a step in the unknown. There's a lot of uncertainties. Like, I'm a little bit afraid, but who's really afraid? It's not you, it's not your monk, it's your mind. Your suit is afraid. Because your mind is designed to keep you safe, to keep you secure, and to keep your life stable and in control. And so you have this battle between the suit and the monk, right? On the one hand, you want to do one thing, but on the other hand, your suit, shall we really do this? I'm scared, I'm afraid. And what are other people say? So you have that internal conflict, and that's a challenge. And so that decision making here is really key.
Yeah. So would you say that when you have fear about doing something different or following your purpose, your path, that fear doesn't come from the heart, does it? Your heart will never tell you or give you any fear.
No, exactly. Because the heart is the alignment with your true self. It's who you are. It's just because we are programmed so much in the mind that the mind keeps us in the comfort zone, right? It keeps us stable, keeps us secure, because we are afraid of judgment. What is my family going to say if I'm going to follow my passion? They'll judge me because I'm not going to make money in this new industry if I'm going to do art or music or anything else. And so then you have that internal struggle. And I think that's missing for a lot of people, support and guidance on that life journey, on how you navigate all these challenges, because life is complex. And as we said earlier, your decision making is really key to determining the future of your life. Even you and I, Michelle, coming to Australia, for me was, I follow my monk. I had no network in Australia. I had no idea how I'm going to build a business here. There is no company doing the visa for us. We had to do it. There is no apartment or a house that the company is going to pay. No, you have to step outside your comfort zone, and you have to start from zero. And then, is that the right thing to do or not? And we did it, and it worked out beautifully.
Yeah. And a lot of people really wanting to follow their heart and be authentic to themselves, they're feeling this tension in their body, this stress of actually not following their heart, right? It turns out and manifests in a physical way. Your body starts to break down, inflammation and disease and all this starts to happen. And yet people are so afraid to step out of the comfort zone, like you say. And what are some of the, why is it so important for us to follow our heart and lead from that? When we do have all that success, we need money. Let's not discount how important wealth and money is. Then if that gives us supposedly the perfect lifestyle, then why is it so important that we need to follow our monk and our heart?
At the end of the day, if you don't follow your heart, you're just not living a life in alignment. And what's the consequence of misalignment? It's all the negative emotions, right?
Yeah. Reborn again, you're going to follow another lifetime to finish your purpose.
Yeah, for sure. When someone is misaligned with who they are, then you feel depressed or you feel lonely or there's anxiety. So why would you postpone living a fulfilling life? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. The challenge is the responsibilities that we have. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to quit my job and then follow my passion because you have a mortgage or you have a family that you need to take care of. So it's not that straightforward. So the first thing you need to reflect on is, am I living aligned with who I am? Do I have a relationship with my inner monk, with myself? And if the answer is no, then you need to change something. The suit is important. We need money. We need all external resources. But if that's at the expense of who you are on the inside, you'll create a huge gap between your suit and your monk, between who you pretend to be and present to be and who you are on the inside. And I think in the world today, globally, there is a big gap, not only for individuals, in organizations, in society, in the way we live and lead life. And that's why there is so much conflict right now, because there is a huge amount of misalignment. And I think it's that we return back to the essence of who we are, what's important, our values, our moral compass, how we make decisions based on ethics and responsibility, not for someone else, not to show off, not to be better, but for our internal self. What you said, to create that internal alignment, that is really the key.
What would you say to somebody who's like feeling that, you know, that Julia Roberts movie, Eat, Pray, Love, or any of those other movies that show a frustrated, successful person just leaving it all to go follow their heart? What would your advice be in that? You also mentioned a bit of caution about not throwing it all and leaving you still have responsibilities. What would be something practical for someone to do that?
Yeah. I haven't seen the movie, I think, from Julia Roberts, but I can imagine what's happening. Is it like a guy with a midlife crisis, like buying the Porsche and leaving it all behind? It's a bit similar.
Oh, the opposite, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like a woman who's, oh, I want to go to India to find myself. A lot of people going through that. I don't know if it's a very 90s or early 2000s concept, but it's the idea of, I need to go somewhere to find myself. I also do advocate taking a trip and changing up your environment. And we've often spoken about this, how important it is to change our environment. We've done that many times for ourselves. What would be your advice to somebody who's, I just want to throw it all in and move to India or live in an ashram or live in a monastery? A bit drastic.
Two thoughts. One is, if you come to that stage, it's been building up probably for many years.
Yeah.
And the buildup has come so strong that suddenly, well, it's ready to explode. And you just want to give it all up and leave it all behind and so on. The good thing about that is that you have the wake-up call.
Yeah.
But the second thing is you've waited many years for that to happen. So my recommendation is, don't wait too long to make the change, because the change will be less drastic. So it's, if you go on this road of the journey, make the change earlier. Don't wait until you're in the extreme in the suit to then go extreme in the monk, right?
Yeah. You've already got cancer or something.
Exactly. Because it's like a pendulum. If you're successful here, but there's no fulfillment, and you take away the success, then suddenly you're going to swing all the way to the other side.
True.
And that has huge consequences in your life. So if you look at the natural flow of life, like really the natural flow, life is very slow. If you look at how nature moves or how day and night moves, it's slow. It's at a slow pace. It's not fast. But if you look at the way we run businesses or the way we interact with social media, it's like constant news, constant things happening. It goes really fast. And so we live life with the mind in a fast-paced environment, whilst our monk wants to live in a slow-paced environment. So we are vibrating high, but we actually want to be slow. Ideally, you find that balance. So to make that change, give yourself a lot of time. Don't make it overnight. If you have the realization like, hey, I want to change my life completely, give yourself a couple of weeks to go through it. Why? Because the first thing you have to do is build a relationship with your inner monk. Is, hey, what's really going on here? What have I been lacking over these past years in myself? Where have I made decisions not aligned with my monk? And so that takes time for that reflection. And every day you wake up, every morning, you have a new insight, you have new awareness, you're a different person. And so give yourself enough time and then slowly make the change as a more like an integration rather than like a car crash, let's say like a sudden life shift.
Right.
Yeah. So take your time, do it slow,
Slow. Yeah.
Yeah, do it slow. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I've told you this ever, but there are moments when I'm like, maybe I should just cut off all my hair and then go live in an elephant farm in Thailand or something completely crazy opposite. I don't know if you ever have those impulses and you go, I just want to do something completely different just to do it. And it makes no sense. And then to an extent, it's a little bit following the heart, but then when you really stop and like you said, the slow, and you really not think about it, but you feel into it, because we don't use the mind to make these kind of decisions. But when you feel into it and you go, yeah, it actually doesn't feel aligned. It's just something to do and it's something exciting. And maybe that's the extroverted part of me and you're introverted. It's like that wanting that new feeling, that new environment, that new experience. But then again, it doesn't actually quite align with what I'm now very clear about doing. And I guess in my past, I was a bit more, I just want to do this. And I did so many things. And it shocks me to think about all the things that I've achieved and done. And you have to reflect back and go, oh, wow, like I've done these amazing things and it's enough. And I don't need to keep doing these things to test myself. And it's interesting as I grow older and I'm more in my slow pace. And as I've been doing a lot of growth work and energetic work, and the checking in with the heart has become such a profound skill and activity that I do. And I think it's really a powerful way to go about life, isn't it?
And looking backwards now, do you regret it, or would you have done it? Such decisions like, oh, I'm going to cut all my hair and with the elephants, or
It wasn't a line. It's just one of those. It's just one of those playful thoughts, or one of those ideas, maybe, because that it's like you said, the pendulum swinging from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
Before I moved to Spain, I had this very average, ordinary life. It was a great life, but it was like you get married, you have a job, you buy something, then you try to pay it off, and you try to live that very segmented, rational, acceptable life. And then things change, and all of a sudden you're like without boundaries, and you go, oh, I can do anything. The next step of my life doesn't have to look anything like the first phase. So what could that be? And then I go into these possibilities of maybe I'll be a lawyer, and maybe I'll move to Iceland or something completely not in the regular sphere of things. And that also, I suppose, is not actually following your heart. That's maybe more going that pendulum swinging, like you said, going for the extremes.
And what helped you make the right decision at that time? What is it that you do to then say, okay, this is the next step on my journey? How did you go about it, or how did you realize that and approach that?
Yeah, I think I've been always doing it, and you just stop and check in with yourself. Even in my 20s and working as a freelancer in design, and then starting my footwear company, and then it's like, what's next? And then starting a construction company with my ex-husband, and then there's many more ideas that come, and it's, oh, I could do that. And then all of a sudden you run out of steam because it doesn't feel so aligned. So when you give it some time and space, and I know you're a big advocate of time and space and silence.
Yep.
And you almost just wait it out to make sure that it's heart aligned and not like mind, ego going crazy. Do it. It's exciting. It's fun. And actually, that's why it took me so long to get into coaching, because I'd done personal development for the last 15 years, but it wasn't like, oh, that's my next career. Yeah, I'm going to go straight into that. It took me some time before I recognized that that's something I really wanted to do, and to become a life coach. And I think that time and space is really necessary to listen to the heart.
Yeah, it's what we talked about earlier, right? It's a time and space. And I know some people who make drastic decisions, like they swing the pendulum to one side. But typically when you swing, it always comes back. It'll come back towards the middle. So it's not always a bad thing to do. Just be careful on the consequences. Again, it's about your decision making, right? What you could do, for example, as well, is I once did a 9-day meditation of Vipassana in Outer Mongolia, outside of China. And that was like a short term, like get away from life, just be 9 days with myself. Vipassana is a meditation where it's all around the world. You don't talk for 9 days, no writing, no reading, nothing. You only have 2 meals a day, and the only thing you do during the day is meditation. I think from 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning until 9, 10 o'clock in the evening. And then, of course, you have breaks, but you can't talk during the breaks. And that is almost like a reset that you can do to really connect with yourself, to then identify, okay, what are the next steps on my journey? Some people, for example, would do Santiago de Compostela, the walk in Spain, which takes 30 days. Like, these are momentary changes that you can make to be with yourself and to reflect, or to travel alone, and then decide what your soul is calling to, and then take on the next step of the journey.
Yeah. What would you say are the consequences of leading the logical life, leading the very suit-based life?
First, we've been programmed to live that way.
Yeah.
And so from an early age on, we are programmed to disconnect from who we are based on expectations. Not always a bad thing, but it's just the way we grew up. Yeah. And these consequences, or the return to who we are as a soul, often happens only in midlife. Because that's when you know you have a stable job, you make enough money, and then you have a realization like, hey, I'm not really fulfilled. What's going on here? How can I realign? But then you're 30 years later in your life, 40 years later. So the key is to recognize that earlier. The consequences are also in the times during COVID. If you look at the vaccine that was given at that time, if you look at reason and logic towards the vaccine, normally it takes 10 years, I think, to develop a vaccine. During COVID, the vaccines, within 1 year, within a year and a half, they were on the market. So at that time, if you reason with logic and you say, oh, I have to take the vaccine because, it's recommended and we have to do it, not sure that's the right thing. At that time, I knew to myself, there's COVID. Nobody knows the impact of the virus, but I knew I have a larger purpose in life. If I don't take the vaccine, I will not be able to, if I take the vaccine, I don't know how to say, I knew I shouldn't take it because I knew I had a larger purpose. There was more for me in this life. It couldn't be that my life would have ended at the time because there was more things to be done. And listening to my inner voice and my monk at that time made me not to choose to take the vaccine. And that actually helped me now later on because right now there's a lot of vaccine injuries. There's a lot of issues with the vaccine.
Yeah.
And so that is where your logic sometimes doesn't have to take over your sentiment. Your internal sentiment also has a logic. Your monk logic, let's say, your monk reason. Build a relationship, learn to trust it, and then make the right decision. So monk first, suit second in your life journey. A monk first, feeling first, internal logic first, then external logic, because then there's no misalignment. That's the way I would approach it and the way we are approaching it.
Yeah. That reminds me when I had my back injury. We didn't know each other then. This is 10 years ago. And I knew that I didn't want to have surgery. And it was an option because it had pinched some nerves and I had chronic pain. I couldn't walk at one point as well. And there was a very clear feeling inside me that said surgery is not an option. And I don't know if a lot of other people have this kind of feeling or this sureness, this very much a knowing.
Yep.
And that's your monk also, would you say, that gives you that wisdom, that inner wisdom?
Absolutely. And you had the courage to listen to it. What would have happened if you would overwritten that feeling?
Who knows what happens with surgery? That's leaving the power out of my hands, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's asking somebody else to heal me in not life-threatening circumstance. So that felt really misaligned for me. And potentially I could have had worse than the pain that I suffered. I could potentially be paralyzed or way more worse things, right?
Yep.
I think in society, we health-wise and also life-wise, we give away our power to others because we've been trained that we can't heal ourselves. We don't have the answer within ourselves. We don't know what we're doing. And all that's a big lie. And I think the work that we're doing is really important to the world that this has to change.
Yeah. And everyone has that inner voice. Everyone has the inner monk. And the key thing is to learn how to listen. And that's really the goal. Again, what we said at the beginning of the podcast is to enhance the awareness that you have this inner self. Reading, talking to friends, some people meditation, going for a walk, and have that reflection. And that is really the key. And the more you develop it, then, as you say, if something happens in life, you know how to make a decision. Like you with your surgery, you knew it was not the right thing to do. So that's really the inner voice. And, I say monk first, suit second. So listen to your monk first and then build your external life around it. So there is no more gap between your internal and external self.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's funny because I just went away with my parents to Perth and Dad was actually asking me what my coaching was like. I was shocked because my parents never asked me anything about my life normally. And he was asking me, oh, so do you give people advice on life? I said, no, I don't. I can't give people advice on life because I don't know what people are going through. I ask them questions and I allow them to have the awareness, and I create this space for them to have that not thinking time, but that inner awakening time. And that's the importance of what we're doing, life coaching, executive coaching, business coaching. It's all the same, isn't it? It's just that awareness,
Exactly.
heart first. Yeah.
Yeah, completely. Yep. And you raise a good point. That's why a lot of people work with coaches, simply to raise that awareness. Because if you're alone on the journey, sometimes you can't see the solution in the difficulties. And if you work with someone external, you can get different questions that helps you open the mind in a different way. Oh, suddenly I see the light. And yeah, that's beautiful. It's beautiful work.
Amazing. And what are you doing in work right now? Are you still doing your programs? Are you doing your coaching? How can people work with you and find you?
Yeah, we do a lot of corporate training programs with Suited Monks. We have a team of trainers worldwide that deliver the program for companies, and that it's all about bridging the gap inside yourself. The same at one-on-one coaching with business leaders, because everyone has a suit. You have your success, but if you're not really fulfilled, there is a gap inside yourself. And so you need to fill that gap with your internal self. And it can be done through practical steps and tools. So I walk business leaders through a program to help them realign with that monk. And then finally, we're doing the podcast now together. So highly encourage people to subscribe, because we'll do more episodes, and that will also enhance your own self-awareness and reflection on the life journey. And yourself, Michelle?
Yeah, I'm actually going to start up a new 6-week intensive container.
Yep.
By the time this airs, we're probably going through the first container.
Nice.
But I'm seeing like this need for a space to actually grow and actually become the future self, which is have you shift your identity and live that new identity. Because I believe that we don't need to learn anymore. I think people are coursed out. People are done tons of courses and how-tos and do this, do that. And what I'm seeing now is that people actually want that space to be held in that higher self. So that's what my new program is going to be about. And and I've got my book out. I'll be displaying at the Sydney Mind, Body, Spirit Festival as well.
Exciting.
And all the usual things. So yeah, thanks, Raf.
Amazing. Great.
Yeah, amazing. Any final words of wisdom that you want to give to our listeners?
Yeah, I'd say keep enhancing your awareness through a method that works for you. Reflect on it. That's even more awareness. And always put your monk first. From firsthand experience, it's been the best decision of my life. When I left corporate, I made a commitment to myself and I said, look, for everything that I'm going to do for the rest of my life journey, 17 years ago, I said I'm going to put my monk first and my suit second. And that made all the difference for me. That one decision, monk first, suit second. So that is something that I highly encourage everyone to listen to and to take away. Something I forget else, the Suited Monk books are also available online on Amazon, Suited Monk Leadership, if you want to learn more. And I look forward to having more conversations.
Yeah, definitely. We've got a couple of interviews lined up with you. We'll definitely have that. So everyone, make sure you check out Raf, all his books, his courses, his programs. And if you're interested also for your own company, to have him come into your company. So Raf Adams of the Suited Monk is international. So just let us know which country you prefer and just get in touch. We'll have all the links for Raf below on the show notes. Thank you so much, Raf. This has been cool.
Yes.
We definitely need to keep doing this, I think.
Yeah. It's a nice flow. It's a nice alignment and it works really well. And thanks for having me.
Yeah. And thank you so much, everyone. Thanks, Raf.
All right.
We'll see everyone next time.
Take care.